So I have the pleasure of working with a lot of 7- and 8-figure concrete companies, and what I've noticed is the bigger the concrete company business owner, they typically think with a different set of rules and have a different mindset. So this video is gonna be breaking down the common characteristics that I have found working with some of the bigger concrete contractors versus the really small ones. And number one, even though I don't really think this is related to religion, also just happens to be the most common phrase among all religions. So think of like the Bible, the Quran, all of the other forms of religious texts, they all have one phrase in common that they say the most. And so any guesses? Take a guess down in the comments down below. If you guessed what it is fear not. And what I've realized is a lot of the bigger concrete companies, it doesn't mean that they don't have fears or they don't have anxiety, they don't have worries, but they act despite fear. And they have this like sense of confidence that I can't even describe. And let me give you guys an example. So I was actually doing something new in my company. And it was funny because I was talking to a friend and he like literally sat there and he's like, whoa, Tyler, like, dude, what are you gonna do like if it doesn't work? And it was kind of funny because I kind of sat there for a second and I was like, well, what do you mean if it doesn't work? What I'm trying to do, by the way, is get into more commercial work. And so he's like, well, what if you like don't get into commercial? And I was like, dude, what are you talking about? I was like, how would I not get into commercial work? And he's like, well, what if your strategy doesn't work? I was like, well, then I'll just try something else. And he's like, oh, and like, it was so weird because he didn't even have that concept come through in his mind. And that's when I kind of realized, and basically bigger concrete companies all have this in common, is they don't go into something thinking that they're gonna fail. They don't go into something thinking with a lot of fear. They just act. Okay, they just act. And it just happens to be that not fear is also one of the most common things said among religious texts. I thought that was pretty cool. Another thing is they actually flipped the mental script when it's about money compared to most other people. So what do I really mean by that? So, and we've all kind of heard about this, right? So if you grow up and your parents potentially, maybe not your parents, but most people, their parents say, don't talk about money. Money is the root of all evil. We basically have all this like negative head trash about money and what it means to be rich. And what's weird is basically bigger concrete contractors and people who run bigger businesses, they feel the exact opposite. This is my mindset around money. And I've noticed that I've shared this with a lot of bigger concrete companies. And that's basically, instead of it unethical to make money, I actually view it as unethical to not make money. And so you're like, Tyler, that sounds like stupid. How is that unethical? So here's my point of view. And just hear me out, okay? If I want to take care of not only me, but I want to take care of my family, my loved ones, maybe I want to take care of my community. Basically, if I want to influence the world, in my opinion, the best way to do that is with money. I know a lot of you guys are like, oh, give community service, this, and that. But just imagine if you had so much money, you could buy, say for instance, start a charity where you're going to have 3,000 people donating their time to a specific cause that you want. So when I think about it, and when a lot of people who have a lot of money think about money, they never feel that it is unethical to get money. They actually feel the exact opposite, where they frame it in their mind, where it is very unethical to be lazy and to not work and not pursue making money, because that is how you impact not only yourself, but all your loved ones, your family, your friends, your community, anyone that you wanted to. That's how you do it, is through making money. Hey guys, quick break from the video. Just want to remind you guys that I am here to make concrete contractors get richer, okay? So whether that's getting more leads, helping with systems, learning how to hire, whatever that is, I've linked a couple of our programs down below. I encourage you to check the programs out that we have to see if they might be a good fit to help your business make more money. Another one that's related to that is overtime, and I had to combat this a lot, is they sell to people who they can make money on. They do not sell to everyone. They do not feel bad. So speaking of which, I actually just did a podcast. I'll actually link to the episode of that podcast down below. I actually partnered with Texan Concrete Specialists, and we grew Texan Concrete Specialists. He was doing about $1.2 million a year. And this year, he should be doing about $3 to $4 million in concrete work. So he's scaled significantly. And what was funny is I actually talked to him after the podcast, and I was just kind of talking and like all that stuff. And he's like, yeah, man, like I actually like got mad at my estimator. And I was like, why? He's like, well, he tried to charge like $10,000 for this patio, and we could have done it for $7,000. And I was like, and? But basically, long story short, is he still had this like negative head trash in his head that he felt like he had to say yes to everybody. I want to remind you guys that the bigger concrete companies, they sell to people who they can make money off of. It does not matter, okay? It does not matter if, say for instance, don't get me wrong, I feel really bad if someone's in a really bad situation, but we take care of our business first and foremost. Does not mean that we don't take care of customers, but it also means that we don't feel bad if someone reaches out to us and we give them a price and they can't afford it. We just move on and we focus on selling to people who can actually afford our concrete service. Another big thing, I see tons of these people, and this happens all the time. And a lot of people, what they want to do, they have these like stupid aspirations. I'm sorry, but they're pretty stupid. They're like, oh, I want to grow a business. And I'm like, why? And they're like, I want to grow a business so I could basically F around and not do anything. And I'm like, dude, that's ludicrous. If you basically think that you want to just grow a business so you could just do nothing and sit on your couch and be a bum, that is ridiculous, okay? These bigger concrete companies that I talk to, when they accomplish a milestone, what do you think they do? Do you think they stop working, or do you think that they work even harder? They work harder, okay? So these bigger guys, they have this insatiable appetite to make money and make progress. And here's the thing that you learn in what makes these people successful. Is they're in the pursuit of money, but the thing that actually makes them happy is not necessarily earning money. It is the hunt for making money. So that would be like, oh man, like I'm gonna go out and I'm gonna like kill this elk. But then they're like, okay, and you'd be like, well man, you're gonna be full for a while. And they're like, well man, I have a whole village to feed. So I want more elk, and now I wanna feed more people. But basically they like the hunt. They will never have some type of end destination, or especially some insignificant one. Like, I'm sorry guys, but if you have like some company and you do $1 million a year, I used to think this before, but that is pipsqueak in the concrete universe, okay? Big concrete companies are doing 10, 20, 50, $100 million. And so, or even more. So I've seen some of these bigger concrete companies, right? And what a lot of people, they'd hit a certain goal and they'd F off and go buy a boat, and all of a sudden they'd ruin their business because they'd get lazy. These bigger guys are not like that. They keep growing and they stay focused on bigger and bigger targets. When they hit one, they just kick the goalpost down the line. They make an even bigger goalpost. Another thing is they buy proper stuff. The best way that I can illustrate this, I'm actually gonna put a picture, if I could find it. When I started my first company, which was a bounce house rental business, I actually used to like drive around, deliver bounce houses to little kids' parties. It was super silly. But when I first started, I was super cheap. I was like, man, what's like the cheapest dolly that I could get? And so I went out to Home Depot. I think I spent like $150 on like a basic dolly. But over time, and actually I remember the very specific moment, I like drove to a job. I didn't even have a truck. I was in like my old Ford Focus and I drove up with my crappy dolly. It had just rained and I was trying to take this big freaking bounce house. Like those things weigh like 150 pounds, by the way. They're not light. And I'm trying to drag it through the mud. And this guy looks at me and he was like, is this your business? And I was like, yeah. And he's like, you need proper equipment. And I never felt more embarrassed in my life. There are tons of people watching me. I could barely get over stuff. It was miserable. And from that point forward, I realized that buying cheaper things is not always how you're gonna make more money in the long run, okay? So these bigger concrete guys, they don't focus on cheap stuff, okay? Whether it's like an office, like what I'm in right now, whether it's a skid steer, whether it's marketing, whether it's insurance, they understand that quality people, quality equipment, quality services come with a price, and cheap costs you more in the long term than spending more on proper investments. They also think in who's, not hows. I see people do this all the time, smaller guys, and it drives me nuts. They think that they have to be the experts at everything. They have to be the expert salesperson. They have to be the expert in concrete. They have to run all the crews. They have to do everything. And because of that, they don't grow. Bigger guys think the exact opposite. When they have a problem, they look around in their universe, and what they do is they're trying to buy experience, okay? Because guys, think about it. Okay, say for instance, me with marketing in my company. I've been marketing for a decade, okay? For a literal decade. So for someone to think that they can just come and become an expert marketer, you can, but you need to spend a decade. And it's the same thing with any other skill, accounting, bookkeeping, etc. They're like, oh, I'm gonna like do this brilliant idea. I'm gonna do my books and I'm gonna hire my sister-in-law who took a accounting 101 class like 10 years ago when she was in college. Like, that's ridiculous. When bigger concrete companies have problems, and it's not, by the way, it's not just because they make more money. You guys would be shocked with the amount of risk tolerance, meaning how much money these guys are willing to put on the line to bring in the right people who already have that decade or 2 decades of experience, because they don't want to waste 10 to 20 years of their life when they know they can just buy someone else's 10 to 20 years of their life, fast forward all of that success into right now. If you're a concrete contractor and you want to make more money, I have 2 special offers for you, okay? Number 1 is for our newer and our smaller concrete guys. This one is where I actually teach and implement the system for you on how we scale concrete companies. It also comes with a full course on everything from pricing jobs, hiring people, etc. If you're interested in that, link is in the description. We also partner up with 7- and 8-figure concrete companies and run their marketing for them and implement our best-in-class marketing strategies. So if that sounds interesting to you, link is also in the description. Enjoy the rest of the video. Another thing is they surround themselves with A players, and they do not tolerate just total bullcrap, okay? And to be honest, I think all of us fall into this when we first get into business. I was the same. Like, for instance, my very first employee that I actually hired was actually my friend's wife, okay? Which is, by the way, never do that. It's not even because she's bad or anything like that, but what I realized is these bigger concrete companies, they do not tolerate B and C players. Because if you guys think about it, you guys want to know the fastest way to remove all of the best people in your company, it's to hang around with total losers, okay? Say, for instance, in a big sports team, why do you think, for instance, I love NBA. We're now in the NBA playoffs, right? Would a big NBA player ever go to the worst possible team? No, never. Just so you guys know, A players like to fly with other A players because they want to win, okay? And so if you are tolerating B and C players on your team and you allow that culture to foster, it totally eats up and destroys your company. So these bigger concrete companies, they are ruthless. But again, it's not because they know that they want to foster a culture of winning, because that's what attracts in the talent and that's what gives results. Last one is these guys focus on what is required. They do not focus on what they are best at, okay? And it is human nature. If you are super comfortable with a lot of people, for instance, I talk to a lot of people and they're like, man, I want to learn more about concrete sales. And I'm like, okay, what's your close rate? And they're like, 50%. And I'm like, dude, your close rate is amazing. Like 50%, that's incredible. And basically, long story short, is a lot of people, they want to focus on what they are already good at because it's comfortable. That same person who's closing at 50% probably sucks at business financials. These bigger concrete players do not think like that, okay? These bigger concrete players will focus on the weak spot of the business, and they are totally okay with being uncomfortable. In fact, they actually seek uncomfort because when they are uncomfortable, they know that they are growing. So most smaller guys stick in their zone of comfort, which is why they never grow. That is what I had for you guys today. I hope that you guys found that helpful. I really enjoy getting to work with some of these higher level concrete business owners, and I wanted to pass off some of their knowledge to you guys. I had to learn a lot of this stuff the hard way, and it's still a continuing journey for myself, but hopefully you can take some of these lessons and shortcut that success, make more money, and I'll catch you in the next video.